From the Lotus Pond to room 111, there are a lot of Chinese urban legends that I'm sure you have not heard of. I'm Alyssa Malati, your host, and let's take a look at your top 10 dark Chinese urban legends you have never heard of. In our 10th spot today, we have the legend of the Lotus Pond. As the story goes, there was once a girl who got the devastating news that her boyfriend was being unfaithful to her while she was waiting for him near a lotus pond. After receiving the news and experiencing the heartbreak, the girl jumped into the pond and committed. It is believed that if a couple is planning to meet near the lotus pond, the spirit of the girl will call out to the boy and eventually pull him into the water and drown him. If you hear a girl calling out to you near this pond, you are not supposed to look at her or acknowledge her at all. I wonder how many people have tried this just to see if they hear her. Man, it would be so tempting, but equally as terrifying. In our number 9 spot today, we have the single Braid Road. As the story goes, there is a road that runs along the campus of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. It eventually was nicknamed the Single Braid Road, as many students have spotted a female ghost with a long braid walking alone at night. Apparently one night, a girl had made the plan to sneak into Hong Kong from the mainland. She was an illegal immigrant and she came with her boyfriend. While they were on the train, she spotted some police get on to check for passports. She got really nervous and decided that it was best to jump off the train. Apparently, as she jumped, her braid got caught in the window frame and the hair was ripped off her scalp along with her skin off her face. The girl stumbled onto the Single Braid Road where she died. Her body was discovered the next day. Apparently her boyfriend, whom witnessed this event, continued on with the plan without looking back. I'm not sure of how much of that part of the story I believe, because who then would be able to tell the story? But that's what the legend says. Apparently after this, a student was walking on the Single Braid Road when he spotted a girl with a braid, and he called out to her. She didn't respond, so he went up to her and tapped her on the back. She turned around to reveal that she was faceless, and then disappeared. Apparently she is seen quite often, but only by males. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Mongolian death worm. Supposedly, the Mongolian death worm is said to live in the Gobi Desert. This creature is supposed to be enormous and red, 2 to 5 feet long and as thick as a man's arm. Reportedly, 2 to 5 feet is among what most report, but others have said that it can be much bigger. Yikes, that's terrifying. The creature is known for its highly toxic venom that is very acid-like, and its intestine-like appearance. It is also believed that the worm has the ability to spray its venom from a distance, and the venom is so powerful that it can kill a horse or a camel. Many have tried to find the worm with only failed attempts. In our number 7 spot today, we have the haunted office building. Near the heart of Shenzhen, there is a building called the Shanghai that is said to be haunted by the ghosts of past volatile employees, and they are vengeful. It is said that in their life, they were blamed for the failures of various businesses in the building. In the 60s and 70s, when China was undergoing a cultural revolution, the building was supposedly used as an execution ground where it is assumed that they were executed. It is believed that eventually, years later, when the city was beginning to develop more rapidly, in order to capitalize on this legend, a ghost specialist was hired to give advice on how to handle the ghosts. There's speculation around the 2 pointy towers that seem to resemble candles, and so some think that this creation was from the advice of the ghost specialist. But something tells me if this was the advice, maybe they should get a second opinion. What about Sage? In our number 6 spot, we have the Shanghai's Dragon Pillar. As the legend goes, since the mid-90s when the Yan'an elevated road opened up, there has been a focus on the Dragon Pillar, which is a part of the expressway. The Dragon Pillar, which is located in the cross-section, is a pretty large pillar decorated with 9 dragons and a metallic finish. The story behind the pillar begins when the construction workers were originally working on the expressway, and they had to install the pillars needed for the foundation. They found themselves having some trouble drilling to the required depth and the construction had to come to a halt. It was decided that the solution was to send in some feng shui masters to take a look at the site, but they refused to find a solution. Eventually, a monk was called upon. There's some speculation as to where he is from, but supposedly from Jade Buddha Temple, and he agreed to perform a religious ceremony on the area. After the ceremony had completed, the monk requested that the pillar be decorated with 9 dragons, because this happens to be the resting spot of the city's guardian dragon. As you can imagine, after that, all was well and construction was able to continue. In our number 5 spot today, we have the soldier disappearances. In 1939, during the time of the Japanese aggression against the Republic of China, in the Second Sino-Japanese War, approximately 3,000 soldiers that were stationed in the hills around Nanjing are said to have vanished without a trace. According to the legend, Colonel Li Fuxian sent the troops to the hills to defend a bridge on the Yangtze River from a possible Japanese attack, only to wake in the morning to be told that his soldiers were not responding to calls or signals. When the site was investigated, all the weapons were there and loaded, but no sign of the troops. They were never found. Sounds like another Bermuda Triangle black hole phenomenon, or aliens. Most likely aliens. In our number 4 spot today, we have the last bus. The story begins on November 14, 1995 on what is said to be a stormy night. A man boarded the last bus to Beijing's fragrant hills. Shortly after he boarded the bus and it was en route, 2 men were seen waving down the bus. Even though they weren't at a bus stop, the driver decided to pick them up because it was the last bus. Once they were on board, the passengers discovered that they were actually 3 men, and they had some pretty cool clothing on from the Qing dynasty. The men's faces were white as snow, and they didn't interact with anyone. As the bus began to empty, there got to a point where there was just the man, an old woman, and the mysterious trio. Seemingly out of the blue, the old woman started accusing the man of stealing her wallet. She caused a scene and insisted that the man and her get off and go to the police station. Once they were off the bus and the realization that was the last bus and that there was no police station around came upon the man, he became furious, naturally. But the old man helped him see how lucky they were because the 3 men on the bus had no legs, so they must have been ghosts. Ooh, maybe the old woman saved him from a terrible fate. In our number 3 spot today, we have Room 111. The legend begins with an electrical engineering student trying to travel to another dimension in his dorm room, Room 111. My kind of guy. He was conducting many experiments in his room. He apparently wrapped himself with copper wires and then attached himself to a circuit board, an alarm clock, and batteries. Later on that night, the student's roommate saw him and assumed that he was sleeping, and so he didn't disturb him. But several days later, the roommate realized that he was actually dead. He discovered a note from his roommate that said, "I will come back soon." I'm sorry, but how did he not realize this for days? Questionable, sir. Questionable. In our number 2 spot, we have Littlefinger. As the story is told, there was a university student who was once on his way back to his dorm when he spotted a girl on a swing at the park. He saw her there quite often, so he finally decided to speak to her. Later on, he told his friends all about this girl, and his friends were quite curious about her. They asked him to describe her appearance, and upon answering them, they proceeded to tell him that the girl sounds a lot like a teacher's daughter that had died in a traffic accident. They told him that the girl had lost a finger in the accident. The next time the student approached the young girl, he demanded to see her hands. Eventually she showed him, and he saw that she was indeed missing a finger. This was the last time he saw her, as after this incident, the girl was never to be seen. Man, I've had a few ghostly encounters myself, but nothing quite so live-like as this sounds. Perhaps the student was a medium and he was unaware? Finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Hello Kitty murderer. The story begins in May of 1999 when a girl around 13-14 went to the police to complain that a woman was haunting her. She told the police that this woman was in her 20s and that she was bounded by an electrical wire and tortured until her death. The police had been searching for a woman with a similar description during this time, and so they decided to investigate. They ended up searching a flat in Granville Road 31, where they ended up finding a Hello Kitty doll stuffed with a woman's head. Turns out that this woman was Fan Man Yi, a nightclub hostess who apparently failed to pay a large debt to some powerful men. Some speculate whether there is a connection to the Chinese mafia. Eventually, it was revealed that the 13-year-old girl actually was a part of the murder with a group of older men, one including her boyfriend. So perhaps the spirit of the tortured woman was actually haunting her, but I'll bet her guilty conscience was probably the culprit. Regardless, crazy story. I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. I'm Melissa Melotti, and thanks for watching. Good day, sir.